Martin Gomez of Rancho Consuelo. I have Mr. Collins here, the principal of CBV Brahmans of Australia, here firsthand in the flesh. To answer our questions about what he's trying to do with what he has done with his herd in Australia, and hope to influence people around the Brahman world why his genetics are worth considering. And Mr. Alf Collins here has been in the business forever, so you can ask him.
Genetics are immutable, and so if you select for the traits that make economic sense per dollar invested, that includes land and livestock and time, all important, all valuable. So you analyse how many kilograms you can get per dollar invested, and the simplest way to do that is per hectare per 100 mils of rain. Reproduction rates. If the reproduction rates are increasing, regardless of the environment, then we make progress. And in our case, we make the most progress genetically by measuring under difficult circumstances. Days to calving or reproduction speed. We like them to be gentle-natured, and we measure growth, but it's a zero game, so it's of minimal importance because growth equals consumption. So growth doesn't matter a lot, but reproduction speed and puberty threshold, I say just two things. Reproduction speed and puberty threshold, and they're related. Mating around 1,500 to 2,500 females in our group, and we've got genetic diversity. We do monitor inbreeding coefficient, but it is not important, because if you're looking for adapted cattle, all native animals are adapted. The turkeys, the hogs, the buffalo, and wild horses, they're all totally inbred, because the strongest male will have bred to his daughters and maybe granddaughters before he is cast out. And so inbreeding doesn't matter a lot, but we take the view that if inbreeding becomes a problem, those animals will not survive to the next year. If it is an issue, and our losses are relatively minimal because we have wild dogs, snakes, eagle hawks, and bad weather sometimes, food shortage. So some cattle will die, but not many, because we're looking for what we would call marathon runners, the tough guys that want to go to work. Reproduction is independent of weight and age. Not many people accept that because they haven't researched it. We do, and it's dominated by sire and dam inputs, the genetic inputs for survival, reproduction and survival. Now, we have done research, we've bled 3,500 females to look for a gene that was common in all the high function cows. 85% of the herd has 1 or 2 copies of just one gene. That's not the answer. In the general Brahman herds in Australia, only 10 to 15% of the females have 1 or 2 copies of that gene. All that says is we have made progress, but we're more interested in the genes that govern uterine survival. Puberty threshold is easy to measure for us. We've done research with our national research body over, I think we took 3,500 blood samples to develop that good mathematical understanding. But uterine survival, I believe, is is one of the keys. The other thing is lipid mobilization and liver function. That's on our can-do, will-do list. But currently, the same proteins or genes are present on the head of sperm and the oocyte when it's released. We think that those biological velcros have a large role to play. No one talks about it. We've heard 80 or 90 years of spermatology studies, and very little has changed. Now, in the uterus, when that little conceptus descends into the uterus, some attach and some don't. But the losses in perfectly healthy females can be 40 to 60%. That's too high. They did conceive, most females conceive. But we are interested in what are the genes that drive the proteins and other organisms that result in a uterine success. First sight of the bull, made a baby. We just love it.
So what you're saying is that this uterine survival is also a genetic function of the quality of your genetics that you keep.
We believe so.
Yeah.
We believe so because our herd is layered in speed bands.
Yes.
And the cows that conceive on the first sight of a bull in the first 3 weeks,
In the first 3 weeks, first 3 weeks,
they become the alpha group or C1 group for analysis. They don't all maintain that conceptus, but they have a high chance of conceiving in C2 for the next 3 weeks. We focus on those cattle. We then look for the bulls with the earliest puberty threshold, which often come from those cows. They're the tough guys. There's some other things happening in there that we can't measure, like net feed efficiency, but we think also they may have elevated N levels in their blood. And we haven't assayed that, but that's been analysed many times. And from CSIRO, Dr. Verco assured me that was the single biggest thing in these early studies of the difference between non-adapted and adapted, was the N levels in the blood, because that circulates back into the saliva and back into the gut. Simple thing. Why don't people talk about these things? It frustrates me sometimes. People want to talk how big or how tall or how wide or how long or what the shape of their ears are or what colour. But these are the things that drive economic survival. Now, there's a measure in my country. If you can breed cattle and market them, develop your property and buy more land, it's very difficult. But all the successful people I know have done exactly that. Their cattle earn at a level that they can always buy more land. Most people say land is too expensive, but it's not if the cattle are working hard. Land is never too expensive if the cattle are working at a high level. And that's our goal. It's simple economics, and we're trying to unravel the biology of it. We've done 4 years of exploration in genomics with Professor Hayes from UQ or Kwafi. And we were inspired by Mike Goddard many years ago and Ben Hayes. And we've had, let me think, 4 people globally that were towers of strength in reproduction, physiology and endocrinology. There's the key to successful livestock raising. He's Emeritus Professor Michael Docchio, Professor Barroselli in Brazil, Professor Kinder in North America, and Dr. Verco, the late Dr. Verco from CSIRO. And I've had probably 50 years involvement with those people, 35 years with Docchio, 20 some years with Barroselli, 30 years with Kinder, and I grew up with Dr. Verco. He nurtured Ben Hayes, he and Mike Goddard nurtured Ben Hayes, who is a global authority on genomics. He's transformed the dairy industry, and he's bringing that same intensity of research, and we help fund that. You think we're intense? Yes, we are. We want results.
How can you communicate this with the small growers who has 5 animals? It's important for him to still measure and select properly, right?
That's 85% of the Filipino cattle.
95 maybe.
95%.
Yes, maybe more. So these are the people we try to attract to improve their fertility.
Yep.
How do we start doing that?
The interesting thing, in most households, the wife knows where the money's going. So it's important to talk to the wife, not just the gentleman, because in Australia, all wives do the accounts. They know. The men are out there pretending they're big time, but the women know. And if we can say I think they understand mathematics.
Yes, of course.
And if they see a simple chart where you say, this is what you're earning per cow per year, if you can do Martin Gomez, you can double that if you want to.
Okay, so where will I get my genetics from? The small farmer will ask. He gets it from the government gets it from who knows where, and then they have some successful insemination projects, but again,